Good evening. Let me know if that's too loud. First of all, thank you all for coming this evening. We decided to move it inside out of abundance of caution with the AEEE. I know last year we experienced up here because of the one light that was on. We did have a lot of mosquitoes, so we figured we could fit everybody in here easy enough and move it in, and we don't have to take any chances. And that way everybody can stay safe. My name is Paul Morissette, the fire chief for the town of East Longmeadow. I welcome you to this non-candlelight vigil this year because we're inside on the 18th anniversary of the devastating day, September 11th. At this time, I'd like to introduce the speakers for this evening. I have to my right, Pastor Tim Sharanko, the chaplain for the East Longmeadow Fire Department and pastor at First Baptist Church. Firefighter Ed McCandlish will read a brief statement. East Longmeadow Town Council President Kathy Hill will come on up. State Senator Eric Lesser, State Representatives Brian Ash and Angelo Pupolo, my wife Linda Morissette, and Captain Chris Beecher. I would first of all, normally we have the flags hanging on our flagpole, but because of the situation, we brought them inside. I would like to thank retired building inspector Dan Hellier for his donation of the U.S. flag. This flag was flown on September 11, 2004 in Afghanistan while Dan was stationed there with the U.S. Army. I would also like to thank E.L. Town resident Edward Majewski for the donation of the flag below the U.S. to the left of the flag. This flag contains the name of all those who perished in 9/11, including the people in the planes, the Pentagon, and the World Trade Center. Unfortunately, that number has gone up and continues to rise with all the rescuers and people affected by the trauma of that day. At this time, I would like to introduce Pastor Tim Sharanko, who will bless this.
Thank you, Chief. Just bow our heads if you would, please, and let's just have a moment of silence, just remembering the tragic events of this day. But God, tonight we just thank you for the freedom that we have to be able to join together as a community. Lord, your word said in Psalm 33 that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. As our nation holds September 11, 2001 in our hearts, we trust your eternal love, God. Your word also says that you are our refuge, our fortress, our God. In whom will I trust? God, I thank you for those reminders tonight. Thank you for the freedoms that we have to continue to stand here and to join together, Lord, as a community and remembering the events and the families that still deal with the loss of loved ones. We just thank you for our force tonight, for our community of our fire department and our police department, Lord, our council members, Lord, our representatives that stand before us here tonight. God, we just pray that we would rely on you and on your strength and on your wisdom. And so, God, thank you for the time and sacrifice that each of these men and women make faithfully each day. Lord, I thank you for Chief Morissette and his leadership and the continuation of this vigil. But God, I pray that you would bless our time together tonight. And Lord, may we, it says in Proverbs, trust you with all of our heart. And lean not in our own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge you and know that you will direct our paths. So we pray and ask these things in your name. Amen.
At this time, I would like to introduce Kaylee Yeager, daughter of firefighter Eli Yeager, who will lead us with God Bless America.
Beside her and guide her.
2001, nearly 3,000 people lost their lives in the attacks against the United States. These people were in the World Trade Center, in the Pentagon, and on Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We hold this vigil so we will not forget the innocent civilians, airline employees, Pentagon workers, emergency medical technicians, 23 New York City police officers, 37 Port Authority police officers, and 343 firefighters who died that day. At this time, I would like to introduce firefighter Ed McCandless, who will give a brief history of the East Longmeadow Candlelight Vigil.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, all. After the attacks of September 11th, small East Longmeadow firefighters decided to hold a weekly candlelight vigil every Tuesday evening. The vigil continued until the rescue personnel had finished their work at the site in New York City. From September 18, 2001 until May of 2002, there were firefighters here every Tuesday evening, each holding a lighted candle for at least 1 hour, sometimes as late as 11 p.m. As the public became aware of the firefighters in front of the firehouse, in addition to articles and a reminder in the Springfield newspaper, members of the public began to participate. In September 2002, the Candlelight Vigil program was begun by former Fire Chief Robert Wallace, inviting the fire department as well as the public to attend. This vigil is continued each year with upwards of 300 people in attendance. Thank you for your continued.
At this time, I would like to introduce Town Council President Kathleen Hill.
Thank you and good evening. On behalf of the Town of East Longmeadow and the Town Council, it's my honor to bring greetings this evening for such a heartwarming and community-based event to honor those that have given their lives in the pursuit of democracy and justice. This morning when I was looking through my news apps, I was struck by a statement that today's high school seniors, for the most part, were born in 2001 and did not grow up in the world that we have or understand the impact that the events of 9/11 have on us and some of our younger generations. I think it's important that even though they're only 18, it's incumbent upon us who value the gravity of those events that horrible day, and we bear the responsibility to pay it forward and help our young folks be able to appreciate the honor of keeping the memory of all of our fallen heroes and their families alive, and the honor in working for democracy and justice and being productive American citizens. That said, I want to, on behalf of the council, thank our first responders, both here in the fire department, as well as our police department, who do us proud every day in the work they do for our community and the selfless work they do, in this case, especially to honor the memory of those who have stood for justice and democracy around the world. So I thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and for all of your work in helping to keep democracy and justice alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. At this time, I would like to introduce Eric Lesser, State Senator for the 1st Hamden and Hampshire districts.
Greetings, good evening. I've come in 2 hats. I'm going to give my remarks in a moment, but first I did want to deliver remarks that were sent to the chief today by U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren's office. So I'll read this statement from her now. It says here, when the World Trade Center was attacked on September 11th, 2001, first responders from all across Massachusetts and across the country raced to ground zero on what became one of the deadliest days in our country's history. Altogether, nearly 3,000 people were killed in the terrorist attacks on 9/11, including hundreds of first responders and 206 people from Massachusetts. Now, 18 years later, many emergency personnel still struggle with the injuries, both visible and invisible, that they sustained on that day. I strongly supported legislation to permanently extend compensation for 9/11 first responders and their families, because these American heroes sacrificed for us when we needed them most. We have a responsibility to fight for them. We have this same responsibility to firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, and all first responders in our own communities. They should have every piece of equipment, every minute of training, and every other resource they need so that when they work to save our lives, they are able to go back to their homes and their families at the end of their shift. Thank you all for the chance to pass along a message. And most importantly, thank you for standing in remembrance. And we will never forget the Americans who died on 9/11, the sacrifices of men and women in uniform who keep us safe, or the families impacted by this day. From United States Senator Elizabeth Warren. And I'll just say, as myself, your state senator, Eric Lesser, this is an event that I look forward to really every year. And I want to thank the East Longmeadow community year after year for putting together this ceremony and this remembrance. And I want to thank you, Chief, for making such a point of making it so meaningful every year. And I just want to leave everyone with two thoughts. One is I want to say thank you to our first responders, our men and women in uniform. And I also want to plead with everyone not to forget our men and women who are still fighting overseas in a fight that didn't begin, frankly, on 9/11 and certainly didn't end in the months or years after 9/11. Just recently, I attended the funeral of Master Sergeant Vigil from Chicopee, a Green Beret. He was born in Puerto Rico. He grew up in Chicopee, went to Chicopee High School. He was killed in action in Afghanistan this August. So there are still men and women paying the ultimate price across the world in our name, keeping us safe. His grandmother at the funeral, when officials went up to her to ask if there was anything they could do or anything they could say, she simply said, "He died a hero." He was a hero. He died so that all of us could live in a safer, more prosperous, more free country. So God bless America, God bless our Commonwealth, and God bless East Longmeadow.
Thank you, Eric. Now at this time, I would like to introduce Brian Ash, representative for the 2nd Hampton District.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you to our East Longmeadow firefighters, East Longmeadow Police Department, all our first responders, for my colleagues in state and local government for being here, and especially all of our community members. Most of you come out every year to be a part of this ceremony. I know this year we're having it inside. I don't know if it's because the Chief wants us to suffer a little bit more as we do this today, but it is warm in here, that's for sure. I will try not to be too long-winded. I've been coming here for 11 years. I know my friend Rep. Puplo for the past 13 years, Senator Lesser for the past 5 years. And we come here not just because it's a political commitment, but this is more of a commitment as parents. It's a commitment as community members. It's a commitment as husbands, as friends, to remind people how important this is. As I'm sure most of you that are old enough remember exactly where you were on September 11th, 2001. I can remember it vividly. And I try to, put some sort of meaning to it. And the only silver lining is that when a tragedy like this happens, it reminds us how blessed we are. It reminds us how important the freedoms that were fought for us are. And I know sometimes it's easy to forget when we go through our daily lives. We take these things for granted. on a daily basis, we forget the privileges that we have. We forget the rights that were fought for so we can be here. So we could have, the World Trade Center, so people could work there, so people could go to New York, people could go all over the country, so people could congregate here. All these things are so important, and it's been 18 years, and we do this, of course, to remember all those lives that were lost, and to remember the families that are still grieving and still mourning, and the people that are still sick that were there during and after the cleanup. But it also reminds us that as Americans, we have so much more in common than we do differences. And it's things like this that hopefully can remind us to stay together and think about those things and remember why we're here, and to remember our neighbors, to remember our family members, and to have gratitude. To have gratitude for our life here in America and everything that we have. So I'm honored. I thank all of our first responders here. I thank Chief, thank Kaylee for singing God Bless America. That was an absolutely beautiful job. So thank you for keeping the spirit of all those who lost their lives alive. And thank you for remembering who we are as Americans. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now, at this time, I'd like to introduce Angelo Pupolo, State Representative for the 12th Hamden District, who will say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be here. I see a lot of people fanning themselves, so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, but it's important to certainly say a few words. When you look back at 18 years, right, we, I think, tend to sort of capture things in significant moments, right? Obviously, 9/11 was a significant moment. When you think about it, 10 years ago, when we commemorated, if you will, the 10th anniversary of 9/11, it seems like yesterday. And here we are today at the 18th anniversary. And again, it seems like yesterday. As was alluded to before by Madam Chair of the Council, 18 years ago, and I saw the same news story on different news casts, but a lot of the kids graduating from high school today weren't alive when 9/11 occurred. And I thought about that this morning, and I was going to say that tonight. My oldest daughter is 17, Julia, she wasn't alive when 9/11 occurred. And you think about, what's transpired, and you think about what the importance and the significant, what that did, certainly to galvanize the country, but to make us, I think, overall, a stronger and better nation. And, it's events like this tonight. I think this is, certainly a great tribute to the town of East Longmeadow. So many people here tonight, despite the potential threat of Triple E, and being indoors, so many people came out tonight. And I think that's important. Certainly that East Longmeadow does not forget. And that's important. Earlier today, we had a ceremony in Springfield, the riverfront, at the new 9/11 memorial. That's out there with a piece of the steel that came from 9/11 and the names of the first responders that perished on 9/11. If you haven't been there, take an opportunity to go there and see that solemn place and reflect upon what that means. The names of the individuals who were on first responder duty, who ran into that building when most people were running out. I think that's critically important. And when you look at events like today, and you put it in sort of terms with today's sort of context. Earlier today, I was at a funeral for a great friend, Judge William Boyle, passed away, ALS, terrible, terrible disease. You saw within him, if you will, your own mortality. There's a person who, epitome of health, ran 8 Boston marathons, very active, and one day, fell down and was diagnosed with ALS. And we're here today, recognizing that with the death. He saw that coming, if you will, because he was diagnosed with that. People on 9/11 did not have that benefit. Whether you're in the Trade Center building, or the Pentagon, on that flight, you perish, you have no idea. I read a lot of stuff this morning, people, the numbers and the figures of the people that went to bed the night before, they got up the next morning, expecting to go to work, coming back home, and none of them came back home. They didn't see that coming. I think it's critically important that we remain vigilant. Certainly never forget these ceremonies, this vigil, ceremonies like the city of Springfield and others across this country. are critically important to make sure that those that weren't alive, as we alluded to back 18 years ago, continue to remember, and those of us that were, to remember to the second where we were and how we heard that first plane and maybe didn't think it was that significant, but then heard the second plane crash and said, wow, something's wrong, and then all the events that unfolded from there. We have to always remember to continue to make sure that we do our part to remember those heroes that perished in 9/11 and beyond that. So again, I want to thank you all for being here. I think one of the best ways to do that, it was mentioned before, is certainly to thank our first responders for the job that they do day in and day out. We've got a great team here in East Longmeadow, the fire department, the police department, EMTs, military, all of the events, the veterans that come out each and every event, whether it's Memorial Day or Veterans Day, that come out, not because they have to, right? There's a million other things they probably could be doing, because they want to, because they feel that need to, because it's important to be here and to make sure that they recognize the importance of that historical event, and to make sure that we, as citizens, as individuals, as elected officials, never forget the importance of those significant factors and significant dates in the past. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you that are here tonight. Continue to show your support. I want to thank Chief for continuing on with this tradition. I was with Chief Morissette earlier at the Elks. We had an event there. It's the first one he's missing because we have an event at the Elks tonight that he couldn't make. But it's critically important that, again, that we all remember to be here tonight. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank the fire department, the police department for your continued support. Thank you all. Let me correct that. That was Chief Wallace. Chief Morissette is here. I kind of misspoke. Chief Morissette, he can't be in two places. He can't be in two places at once. But Chief Wallace, who started this, was at the Elks tonight. I want to say it certainly is, obviously condolences.
Thank you for clearing that up. I was wondering where I was supposed to be. At this time, I'd like to introduce my wife, who will read a poem, If Tomorrow Never Comes.
If I knew it would be the last time that I'd see you fall asleep, I would tuck you in more tightly and pray the Lord your soul to keep. If I knew it would be the last time that I see you walk out the door, I would give you a hug and a kiss and call you back for one more. If I knew it would be the last time I'd hear your voice lifted up in praise, I would take each word in action so I could play them back day after day. If I knew it would be the last time, I would spare an extra minute or two to stop to say I love you instead of assuming you know I do. If I knew it would be the last time, I'd be there to share your day. Well, I'm sure you'll have so many more, so I can let this one just slip away. For surely there's always tomorrow to make up for an oversight. And we always get a second chance to make everything just right. There will always be another day for us to say, I love you. And certainly there's another chance to say, anything I can do? But just in case I might be wrong, and today is all I get, I'd like to say how much I love you, and I hope we never forget. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone, young or old alike. And today may be the last chance you get to hold your loved one tight. So if you're waiting for tomorrow, why not do it today? For if tomorrow never comes, you'll surely regret the day that you didn't take that extra time for a smile, a hug, or a kiss. And you were too busy to grant someone what turned out to be their one last wish. So hold your loved ones close today and whisper in their ear, tell them how much you love them and that you'll always hold them dear. Take the time to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, or it's okay. And if tomorrow never comes, you'll have no regrets about today.
Thank you, Linda. Next, I would like to introduce Captain Beecher, who will read May They Not Be Forgotten, a poem written by retired fire FDNY James McNulty. and read by the late Senator Edward Kennedy on December 9, 1999, in a tribute to 6 firefighters who lost their lives in the Worcester warehouse fire.
Brother, when you weep for me, remember that it was meant to be. Lay me down, and when you leave, remember I'll be at your side. In every dark and choking hall, I'll be there as you slowly crawl. On every roof in the driving snow, I'll hold your coat and you will know. In cellars hot with searing heat, at windows where a gate you meet, in closets where young children hide, you know I'll be at your side. The house from which I now respond is overstaffed with heroes gone. Men who answered one last bell, did the job and did it well. As firemen, we understand that death's a card dealt in our hand. A card we hope we never play, but one we hold there anyway. That card is something we ignore as we crawl across a weakened floor. For we know that we're the only prayer for anyone that might be there. So remember, as you wipe your tears, the joy I knew throughout the years. As I did the job I love to do, I pray that thought will see me through.
Thank you, Chris. In the fire service, the last alarm signals the final alarm that a firefighter has answered. The tolling of the bell with 3 sets of 5 rings signifies that the firefighter has come home. Captain Joe Reale will now sound the last alarm for our 343 brother firefighters who died in the line of duty that day. Thank you, Joe. I would now like to introduce town resident Rhea McKechnie, who will come up and sing a song for us.
Hi, I'm Rhea McKechnie. I am so honored to be singing here tonight. Thank you all for having me. And this is God Bless the USA. From Detroit down to Houston, in New York to
This concludes our ceremony. I wish to thank everybody who attended, all of our speakers, the fire department members, the ones that are on duty, ready to respond in the back of the room, and the ones that are here tonight to participate in the ceremony. And we have Chief DeLessio in the back room, along with several of his officers tonight. And thank you to my two singers. It's great to know we have such great talent in town. We can have our own little American Idol here. But we're not having American Idol. Thank you very much.